Hamas-run health ministry says at least 45 people have been killed, including women and children, in an Israeli airstrike on a camp for displaced Palestinians in the southern Gazan city of Rafah. Videos from the scene in the Tan al-Sultan area on Sunday night showed a large explosion and intense fires burning. The Israel Defense Forces said it had killed 2 senior Hamas officials and that it was reviewing reports that civilians were harmed as a result of the strike. Hours earlier, Hamas had fired 8 rockets from Rafah towards Tel Aviv, the first long-range attacks on the central Israeli city since January. Some 800,000 people have fled Rafah since the start of an Israeli ground operation there 3 weeks ago, but hundreds of thousands are still believed to be sheltering there. A government agency fears a deadly landslide, which villagers in Papua New Guinea say struck like an exploding bomb, may have buried more than 2,000 people alive. The figure, provided by the acting director of the country's National Disaster Centre, is far higher than the 670 the United Nations suggested over the weekend. Exact casualty figures for the disaster, which tore through the village in the early hours of Friday, have been difficult to establish. Desperate attempts to rescue survivors or remove bodies from the rubble have so far been hindered by rubble 32 feet deep in some places, blocking access and a lack of adequate equipment. A mayoral candidate who had been kidnapped at gunpoint in Mexico has been found alive. It is not yet known who seized Albino Gomez or why. Mr. Gomez is running for mayor for the governing Morena party in the municipality of Cochalpa El Grande in southern Guerrero state. The campaign for the election in Mexico has been overshadowed by violence, and Guerrero is the most dangerous state for candidates. Police say a hospital in the Indian capital Delhi, where 7 babies died in a fire, was operating without a valid license. The fire occurred on Saturday, leading to the arrests of the hospital owner and the doctor on duty. An investigation has found that the hospital also did not have fire extinguishers or an emergency exit. The FBI is investigating the sale to US buyers of what are suspected to be hundreds of treasures from the British Museum. The US law enforcement agency has also assisted with the return of 268 items which the museum claims belong to it, that were sold to a collector in Washington, D.C. The British Museum announced last year that ancient gems, jewellery and other items from its collection were missing, stolen or damaged. The FBI agent said they were assisting the Metropolitan Police with investigating missing or stolen items from the museum. At least 19 people have been killed as tornadoes and storms tore across 4 US states, destroying homes and cutting power to hundreds of thousands. 7 people were killed in northern Texas, 8 in Arkansas, 2 in Oklahoma and 2 in Kentucky. Scores more were injured in winds reaching 135 miles per hour, and almost 500,000 people were without electricity across several states. Texas Governor Greg Abbott said more than a third of all counties in his state were now subject to a disaster declaration. Kenya's President William Ruto has come in for widespread criticism after saying the private jet he used to fly to the US last week was cheaper than using the national airline. A senior opposition figure called the remarks unpatriotic and said the president should instead have used the opportunity to market Kenya Airways. Mr. Ruto went to the US on a 3-day official state visit, the first such trip by an African leader in more than 15 years. While he was there, Kenya secured a number of investment deals worth billions of dollars.
Bank Mayday, Mac Yankee Whiskey, engine problem.
And dramatic aerial footage shows a light aircraft in Sydney being forced to make an emergency landing. The pilot was able to steer clear of roofs in Sydney's suburbs after the plane lost power mid-flight.
Mayday, coming in. Mayday.
Yankee Whiskey, roger the Mayday, we've got help coming your way.
The Cessna 210 plane can be seen narrowly avoiding houses before skidding across the tarmac at Bankstown Airport. Both pilot and passenger were uninjured. And that's your international news around the world in 5. Now back to the channel's studios in Lagos.